If I could go back, this would be the one thing that I would do. Hello and welcome to another video. So I'm currently a sophomore at Vassar College, which is a small liberal arts college in Poughkeepsie, New York. It's been 2 years since I've gone through the college selection process, but I think being at Vassar for 2 years has taught me a lot about the things that I should have looked for and the things that I wish I knew in the college decision process. So I am going to just share a few things that I wish I knew on my college journey, and I hope that you gain some insights from these and prevent making some of the same mistakes that I made. So something that I knew but didn't really take advantage of was when I went on college tours physically, I didn't take advantage of the students that were there. The tour guides most likely think highly about the school, otherwise they wouldn't really be tour guides. So something that I actually did when I was touring Villanova on the accepted students day was I sat in on some classes and I asked the students in those classes, you know, what do you think of the school? And I actually learned some more negative things about the school that way, and some things that you wouldn't necessarily hear about on tours. Really take advantage of the students that are around you because they most likely have different perspectives than the tour guides, especially if you are visiting a school and you're eating in the cafeteria. Just sit down with one or two students and see what they think, because it's the perfect time to ask students, especially if they're alone. And I know that, like, if I were sitting there eating, although I don't really eat in the cafeteria, but if I did, like, I would be more than happy to talk about my experiences at Vassar. Students want to help you because they were in your shoes not that long ago. So really take advantage of the random students that you see on campus. The best way to maximize this is to make sure you're visiting campus during, like, actual class time and not during breaks like I would sometimes do. And you're going to encounter different students with different perspectives more so than if you were to go on the break. Remember that you're visiting a school for a reason, and it's to learn more about the school. So make use of the resources around you and actually learn more about the school while you're there. Related to that, I would definitely recommend looking for websites or like threads with student perspectives on the school. So Unigo is a really good site that I utilized in my college journey. It basically talks about party life, the best thing about the school, the worst thing about the school, stereotypes, things like that. What's one thing you wish you knew? And I found that really helpful, especially like when it came to things that I knew definitely, like intense Greek life or very low diversity. Like, those were things that I would kind of like immediately filter out of school for me. So you would get those kinds of insights from sites like Unigo, Rate My Professor, even Reddit probably has some good subreddits about each school. I don't want to say rely on sites like Unigo too heavily, but they do raise some red flags. They help broaden your perspective. So don't, you know, make a decision based on those, but help it to inform your opinion about the school. I think sometimes I tended to rule out a school based on just Unigo alone, and I kind of regret doing that without taking more factors into consideration, which I will describe later in the video. But yeah, make sure you take multiple factors into consideration, not just student perspectives, but definitely make sure that that is a tool in your toolbox. So this was one that I really wish I had considered, but don't focus on a dream college. And it's really hard for me to say that because I had a dream college throughout the entirety of high school since, like, yeah, probably 8th or 9th grade. And I was tunnel visioned on that one school. And I'm not saying to not have a dream school at all, but don't tunnel vision on that one school. Instead, what I would do if I were to go back is to list out the qualities of that school that I really, really liked and try to find similar schools at different tiers. So the school that I liked was, it was pretty high up on the tier list. And if I were to go back, I would definitely try to figure out schools that were similar to that school at different levels. So find a few like ideal characteristics of that school you really like. Is it the class size, student to faculty ratio, what their core curriculum looks like? Is it the research labs that they have or any preserves? A specific academic discipline that they offer that maybe they don't offer anywhere else. Maybe it's something about their internships or their study abroads, like whatever it is, or if there's multiple factors, list them out and try to find those characteristics in at least 5 other schools, making sure that you pick schools from multiple different tiers. Just make sure you're really writing out the characteristics that you are looking for in general for a school. So what would be the ideal school profile that you would want to go to? And honestly, I'm gonna be totally honest, like you probably don't know. You won't know the type of school you want to go to unless you've been in that school environment for like probably a semester. Like what you think you want when you're going into college is going to change. And I mean, I wish I knew that, because something that I really looked for was like a really small community environment. So at Vassar, I mean, the student body is like, I don't know, 2,800 or something like that. And I don't know, it has its positives and negatives. And I would advise you to think about those positives and negatives when you're considering each of the aspects that you're looking for in a school. Because what you think you want might not be what is ideal for you once you're there at college. And you can always transfer too. I mean, you're not like obligated to continue 4 years if you're unhappy, but just think about these positives and negatives when you're considering like the features of your ideal school. Even dorms is a really good thing to consider. What do the dorms look like? Are they co-ed? Like at Vassar, all the bathrooms are gender neutral, and maybe that's something that makes you totally uncomfortable, or maybe you don't care. So it's something to consider either way. Also, I would advise looking at the club list and trying to figure out, do people actually attend the clubs? The surrounding environment also is something to really consider. So are there hiking trails nearby if you really like hiking? Are there a lot of trees? Vassar is actually an arboretum, so that's something that was appealing to me because I like nature, so I feel like I'm in nature while I'm here. Or is it more in like a city? My dream school was actually more of an urban college, which is funny because I just said I like nature, but I actually spent a summer at my dream college and I really fell in love with the environment. So that's also something, like if you could spend more than a day at your college, I would definitely recommend doing so. And while you're there, make sure you walk around the surrounding area and see if it's somewhere you can actually see yourself. Yeah, there's positives and negatives to like urban and more of a rural-ish type campus. And again, I wish I thought about that a little bit more. But make sure that you're considering the positives and negatives to both. Another factor that you're really going to want to consider is distance. So I know that like so many people want to leave home and get away as fast as they can. And I would just urge you to consider that it is going to be 4 years, 8 semesters of being away from home. And is that something that like you realistically feel like you can do? Like, take it to heart and really be self-critical. Like, can I be away from home in the middle of nowhere where I don't know anyone for 8 semesters? If you think that you can, then great. So can millions of other college students, so you're probably fine. But if you feel like you're not ready for that, then that's also fine. Like, you don't have to be ready for it, and you can choose something closer to home. Or you can choose something that's, like, drivable, and you can visit home once in a while. For me, like, I'm 2 hours from home, so I take the train home probably, like, every other week. And yes, it's a hassle, but it's also not like I'm across the country where I can't get home. So just figure out what relationship you want to have to your hometown and what you can realistically handle. Something that I also wanted to bring up related to this is rankings. So rankings will mean when you are actually there. So, in other words, if you get into Harvard, that's great, but you have to spend 4 years at Harvard. So, if Harvard is not a good fit for you, like personality wise, or they don't exactly offer what you want, like academically, then don't go to Harvard just because you got into Harvard. And I mean, I know that if I didn't apply, but if I got into Harvard, I'd probably go to Harvard. That being said, you would have to spend 4 years at this school. And at the end of the day, if just because it's a high ranking doesn't mean it's the highest ranking for you personally. Like, you are going to have your own preferences, your own rankings, and all these rankings are pretty irrelevant in terms of, like, really anything. They're based on random characteristics that the person organizing the list is thinking of, and they're not even necessarily like set in stone rankings. They change all the time. So really don't go based on rankings. Like, yes, there are schools that are more prestigious than others, but what I've learned is that undergraduate schools don't really equate to the same as if you went to an Ivy League for like a master's or a doctorate. Like, I have plenty of professors here who went to random undergraduate universities and then went to like Yale and Harvard for their master's and PhD. So it just goes to show you that it doesn't really matter necessarily like what undergraduate college you go to. It matters where you end up. And even if you don't go to like a prestigious place in a master's, it really doesn't matter either, because jobs also want to see experience. So figure out where you can get the most experience to what you want to study, and things will fall into place once you do. This is one of the most important things I think that you can do when looking for a college, and I really, really wish I had done this and I didn't do it. And I regret it so much. But I really encourage you not to just look at the list of majors, but look at the actual courses offered in each discipline. If I could go back, this would be the one thing that I would do. Like, if I had known this, I probably would have honestly chosen another school. So for instance, I'm just going to show you some of the course offerings in Vassar versus the majors offered. So what you're going to want to do first is type in the name of the school and then course catalog. And yes, I use DuckDuckGo because DuckDuckGo is superior. Okay, then I see Vassar course catalog, and this is the catalog for 2021-2022, and I could see all the majors that are offered. And there are some pretty cool ones, unique ones like geography and anthropology is like a dual major, and they have earth science and geography, which is also a really cool major that I was thinking of declaring. So for instance, let's just go into the neuroscience and behavior program. And so this is something that I was originally considering doing and got discouraged when I looked, because as you can see in the courses, there's introduction to neuroscience, there's research methods, principles of physiological psychology, which sounds cool, research methods, and then there's all these like independent research and community engaged learning. So if you look at the actual courses in the neuroscience department, there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 actual like classes, and then I guess if you include the seminar, it's 5. And this really discouraged me because like there's not a lot of material in the major, and like it sounds really awesome. Like, to me, it sounds really cool. But you're really not learning a lot if you look just in the neuroscience department. And these are all the approved courses that you can take. So there's some pretty cool courses here, but they're not actually under the neuroscience department. So you're not going to be learning actual neuroscience like principles. But but like knowledge and cognition, learning behavior, these are really cool classes. And then like these psych bio classes are also offered. But again, you're not really learning specifically neuroscience, like what you want to learn. You're learning more of like related principles. And I find that that's a very common theme at Vassar and probably other liberal arts colleges, is that most of the majors are made up of like other majors. For instance, I'm going to show you the environmental studies program, and this is also something that I was discouraged about when I realized. So if you go into environmental studies, you will see the classes that are offered, and you have intro classes. So okay, whatever, these are probably like normal in other schools, and these all seem really cool, but then you look into it and they're actually like cross-listed with a million other things, and you realize there's actually like no ENST major. So what ENST is at Vassar is a science like, let's say, earth science, and you pick a social science like political science, and that is what you call environmental studies. So there is no necessarily like environmental studies classes. You choose 2 disciplines to call environmental studies, and then you take an intro in, I think you have to take this class and you have to take this class. And like that's your environmental science major. And again, like there are really cool courses like liquid urbaninscapes. Like, ooh, what is that? I don't even know what that is. There's some cool classes, but if you want to get a real environmental science education, like you're not going to get a strict guidelines for what you should be taking. Like it's really just completely up to you, and that freedom is cool, but it's also like, am I learning the skills that I need to learn? But you also just have to like look around and actually see what it is that you want to do. So if you're really into like economics, then this is more of a like defined major, not interdisciplinary. So you do have like a lot of economics classes that you can take. And so this could be a good like fit for you if you like economics. So you get like sports economics, health economics, law and economics, political economy, environmental and natural resource economics. But if you're looking at something related to like environmental studies, like I was talking about, there are schools that have like, I would say, more offerings for environmental studies. Like a lot of state schools will have like really cool course offerings like fishery management and coastal biology and I don't know, forest ecology. And you're not going to get those types of programs at schools like Vassar. So just make sure that you are looking at the actual course catalog. In addition, look at the actual requirements for each major. Are there a lot of requirements? Do you have a lot of room to explore in each major? For instance, Fordham, they have a really, really like long core curriculum, and they also have like a pretty hard, strong curriculum for each major. So I really wouldn't have had opportunities to explore, especially because I knew like I didn't know what I wanted to do coming into college. Like I had an idea, but I wasn't really 100% sure. So I didn't want to be pigeonholed into one thing, and I knew that if I went to a school like Fordham, like I probably wouldn't be able to explore what I wanted. And that's partly why I chose Vassar. Well, that's pretty much why I chose Vassar, was because there's no core curriculum. In addition to looking at the specifics in each department, I really, really encourage you to look at the faculty in that department, because you might be really interested specifically in biology of, I don't know, corals. And you realize when you're looking at the department in biology, most of them are focused on human anatomy, and I really encourage you to try to find faculty that have interests similar to yours. And this is something that I didn't really take into consideration when choosing Vassar, and I wish I had, because what I originally came to college thinking I wanted to do, there are really no professors that do exactly what I was thinking of. Like, they're related professors, but it would have been cool if I could have more opportunity. Make sure you really look at professors' interests and see if there are any professors that are doing things that you're interested in. Another little tip that I just want to mention is to consider the alumni network. So if you go on LinkedIn, and then I think if you type in the school, you can see like the alumni, and you can see like where all the alumni work, where they distributed, and you can probably, after some searching around, see whether the alumni network is strong or not. So Fordham, even though I didn't end up going there, I did know their alumni network is very, very strong in New York, especially in New York, and that was something that kind of was drawing me to Fordham, was because I knew that people would more likely hire me if I went to Fordham if I were to look for a job in New York, because the alumni network was pretty strong. And I didn't actually consider this in my college search, but Vassar has a very, very strong alumni network, and if like someone else knows that you went to Vassar, they will be more than happy to talk to you and help you along. Even people that, like, I've reached out to so many alumni, even people who work like in chief of staff positions and are like CFOs of major companies, they're like willing to help you out and talk to you, and it's all because of that undergraduate connection to Vassar. So find schools that have like a really strong alumni network, because you never know what opportunities it might afford you later on. The final thing that I want to mention is to not feel like you're obligated to go anywhere, because the people seem nice, the professors seem nice. When you go on tour, it seems like they have a lot of options in terms of internships. Every single school you go to is going to say that. Every single one. And when you go on a tour, you're only going to hear pretty much the same stuff. So I urge you, once you go on a few college tours, you're going to definitely pick up on it, but learn to filter out the specific information to that school that's like different than what you've been hearing elsewhere. Really find those key differentiating points in each school. For example, like its geography. So how is its location beneficial to what you actually want to do? If you want to study environmental science, is it near a forest? Is it near the ocean? How is that going to help you? Is there a preserve nearby? Maybe they offer specific internships with the school for environmental science with the geography nearby. Like, figure out what it is about each school that is key, that is uniquely different from the other schools you're visiting, and how that relates to you and your interests. Already have an idea of what you're looking for when you go on college tours. Like, have that list ready of things that fit the profile of your dream school, and see how many of those things match up during the tour. So that way you kind of don't get focused in on those like extravagant promises that they're gonna make you. I guarantee you it sounds really great, but once you go there, like, the general staff are not really going to help you, they're not looking out for you, and everyone's kind of in their own bubble. They're presenting the best picture of themselves and the school to you. So don't think like once you go there it's going to stay like that, because it's not. They're all going to say they have great internships and the classes are great, but it's your job to actually go on the website and research what internships are actually offered. Contact the career office. Each school is going to tout how it has a great counseling service and a great career office, but they're all pretty much the same, like everywhere you go. The faculty, it's really going to depend on whether it's a research institution and how big the class sizes are. So at Vassar, you really get to know the faculty, and that's one of the key characteristics of Vassar, is because of the class sizes. They are very small. It is an only undergraduate institution, so there are no graduate student researchers, and there are no like TAs, and so that means you really get to know your professors, so that's something to take into consideration. I'm just going to close here. I feel like there's a lot more that I could have went over, but this video is probably already way too long, so I'm going to end it here, and if you're interested in more tips, be sure to leave a comment below to let me know. Remember to like and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I really hope these tips have helped you. If you have any questions, be sure to leave them below. I will see you in the next video.